Good afternoon and welcome to the Federal Executive Forum celebrating 17 years of profiling excellence in government IT mission programs. I'm Luke McCormack. During today's show, we will discuss critical issues facing government and industry leaders with their cybersecurity strategies and solutions. With me on today's show are Ron Pontius, Deputy to the Commander, U.S. Army Cyber Command; Robert Costello, Chief Information Officer, Cyber Infrastructure Security Agency at DHS; Mark Sinkovich, Federal Director at Illumio; Jim Richburg, Field Chief Information Security Officer at Fortinet Public Sector; and David Surgeon, Managing Director, National Security Group, Verizon. Well, we're talking about cybersecurity. Ron, we're going to start with you. I always like to ask anybody that comes on the show that's at the Army, just the breadth and scope of the Army, because I think that's really important. And then tell us about the state of U.S. Army Command. You got a lot of things going on over there, Ron.
Yes, and it's Luke, it's great to be here today and share the many great things we have going on in the United States Army. And when you talk about the scope and scale, that's always a challenge when you think about 1.4 million users in the Army between the active, the Guard and the Reserve, the military and civilian. So just the scope and scale of what we do in the Army, and also from the enterprise to the tactical environment. And so when we talk about, what's some really big progress, 2021, I think, as we've all been experiencing, the pandemic and what it really meant over the last 2 years about the significant move to remote operations and teleworking, and how we've really moved to a hybrid environment. And what the Army did over the last year, I tie cybersecurity with a capability, and that is the Army really accelerated the move to the Microsoft product of Office 365, what we call Army 365. And we've rolled that out pretty quickly. We're about a 70% migration with our existing Defense Enterprise email over to the Army 365. But that really is about having the collaboration tools in a more defendable environment. And so it really is about bringing together both the cybersecurity and the operational aspect to be able for the Army to work effectively and efficiently. And so that's a really big progress here throughout 2021 as we move into 2022.
Sure. Sounds like a lot of moving parts over there. Robert Costello, newly appointed, congratulations, Chief Information Officer over at CISA. Been over there for a short few months. A lot of responsibility over at CISA these days. What are you finding? Give us the state of the state.
Yeah, no, thank you, Luke. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So here at CISA, we're really excited about what's going to happen in 2022. So to your point, a few months into the position. So what I'm really excited about is growing my team, working with everyone with the direction that the agency's taking now. We're a lot more visible than we were before. So rolling out new solutions. To the Army's point, we are absolutely a hybrid workforce, and that is absolutely critical to us right now, ensuring that our field operations staff has good technology and can safely access our systems. We're also really excited over here about the work we're doing to really lead, internally on the cyber front, making sure that I have the right systems in place to support our operators, making sure that our FISMA score is really the best in DHS eventually. And then also ensuring that we're doing the right things by our people, that we're training them correctly, that they have access to everything that they need to be successful in their careers, both technically and on the leadership front. So those are the things that we're really driving towards the rest of FY22, and it's going to be a very exciting year.
No doubt that obviously the environment inside of CISA, being the organization that's responsible for all the cyber activities across the federal government, critical infrastructure, et cetera, need to be the shining example. Tall order for you there. Mark, how about at Illumio? Give us a state of the state about what you're seeing out there, critical partner to the ecosystem and making sure that we secure these environments, particularly as they get more complex.
Yeah, good morning, Luke. Thank you for asking the question. I think the biggest challenge or item that we see out there is in the government, we obviously work with the federal government very closely. They're working on obviously a lot of ICAM, network and device type of zero trust initiatives. What we are trying to really remind readers is none of these areas are going to stop the lateral movement of a cyber attack. And we've been studying what happened with the SolarWinds attack. And in some cases, some of those things are still ongoing. And what we're concerned about at Illumio is what was stolen by the Russian SVR organization, that's the intelligence organization, from FireEye, for example, and how they're probably planning a series of even more devastating attacks than the ones that have been perpetrated thus far. And we're working with various elements, including the Department of the Air Force, specifically to help them stop the lateral movement of an attack, because we know that these even more devastating attacks are going to be coming down the pike. So it's about two initiatives, right? Evangelizing that this is a major problem that we have to address, not only commercially, because we've been doing this for a long time, but also federally, but also then showing people how we can do that through microsegmentation.
Yeah, I always use the analogy with the layperson that, you know, the fire community taught us a long time ago that they want to put these fire breaks in place so that you don't burn the entire row house down, the entire row of houses down. And that's kind of what we're talking about, right? Putting these blocks in place so that you can't just go into this this lateral movement, which does a considerable amount of damage. Jim, how about over at Fortinet? You all are have a unique opportunity to look across the spectrum there. What's the state of the state? What are you seeing?
So, good afternoon, Luke. So let me build on the comments that Ron and Rob have made. Clearly, everyone in the federal government made this pivot to working remotely, and now we're talking about what is the hybrid environment post-COVID going to look like. We've supported the federal agencies in doing that. What neither one have mentioned yet has been operational technology. We're going into an environment where OT is going to be increasingly important, certainly to the Army, but even to agencies that still have brick and mortar headquarters, because we increasingly have sensors for everything from filtration to other parts of public health to physical security that are going to be connected, and we've seen attackers start to leverage these. And if you look at things strategically, Luke, as somebody who spent 30 plus years in the federal government, I don't know that I've ever seen a first year for an administration that's had more executive orders, national security memos on cybersecurity than we have. So your to-do list in the federal government on cybersecurity has gotten really long. So helping agencies on the path to implementing those things, accelerating the migration to the cloud, zero trust, the buzzword of the year, something the federal government pioneered, is something where there are a lot of increasingly secure commercial solutions, and helping these agencies be able to meet the aggressive but necessary milestones laid out in these pieces of strategic guidance is something that we at Fortinet have been very much focused on.
And we certainly do appreciate that. Yes, executive order comes out in May. I think if I remember, there's like 12 sightings of zero trust in there. A lot of activity about you will 90 days do this, 130 or 120 days, et cetera. And then just recently another order coming out, or another memorandum coming out with clarity on the national security systems. And perhaps Ron or whomever can talk about that a little bit. Dave, let's go to you and talk about Verizon. Once again,
Sure.
First of all, thank you and all of you for being there and supporting this this remote environment over the last 2 years. I think it's just amazing how that was somewhat flawless, that we were able to spin on a dime and have millions of people operating in a different kind of model, and that didn't become the secondary story, so to speak. But you're in a unique position there to see a lot of things across the spectrum. What are you seeing there, Dave?
Yeah. Hey, good afternoon, Luke. Thanks for the opportunity and appreciate the question. It's interesting. Really, everybody has touched already on a lot of those things that we're seeing that are critical. And the interesting thing we're seeing is I see it from the tactical edge, the operational environment, all the way back to strategic headquarters, right? It's being infected, impacted, not just what I think they were mentioning earlier relative to the cyber and that chain across it, but also from a standpoint of engagement. Previously to this current job that I'm in, I was around data management, data governance, and data is so vitally important, right? It goes over the network, but it's really one of our critical assets. And I think I've seen a lot of that, obviously the concern with remote working and remote operations. How do we secure that information? How do we still get all our mission critical people engaged and involved? And it has evolved over the last year, right? We're 2 years into this environment that we're currently in, and we're seeing it as we start to, I'll be cautious of the word coming out of it, but let's put it in context, right? We're moving into a different environment and we're transitioning in some aspects. But what we're seeing is that still that level of engagement and collaboration, at the same time ensuring that we're securing our vital things, two things, people and data. And I think we're seeing a lot of that. And one of the things that we do specifically, I think is a little unknown, we do a lot of the managed services around cyber and securing and the reliability of the network. And I think that's critical. The infrastructure is so vital to have a reliable, secure network, as everyone I think would agree here. But I think the other piece is that data piece. And I think that's the one thing that as we go forward, not only preventing these attacks from outside, inside, but it's also ensuring the house is in order and the house is secure. So as long as we can be a force multiplier to support the government, we're happy to be here.
Thank you. Mark, let's roll up to you. And you gave us a little bit about the state, what you're seeing out there. Give us a specific example of a program that you'd like to highlight, point out that is being implemented in the community from the perspective of where you all sit.
Yeah, so the program that I'd like to highlight is the one we've been working on for over a year now. It's the Department of the Air Force and their CNAP program. The CNAP stands for Cloud Native Access Point. That was a document that was released by the Department of Defense back in August of 2021, basically looking at infrastructure as code. So taking a lot of the Cloud One initiatives and overlaying them. We're doing what's called CNAP in a box for the on-prem data centers. And the analogy I'd like to say is, if you have a tennis court, you can only access it certain times of the day, certain times of the year. But if you put a tennis bubble over the top of the tennis court, it's basically 24/7, 365. And that's the CNAP initiative with the Department of the Air Force. They're taking a zero trust security stack that's been vetted and tested, and now putting it in Air Force and now Space Force legacy data centers to increase the cyber resiliency and to prevent lateral movement in our case. So we've been selected as the microsegmentation vendor for that initiative. We've now got we're involved in 3 projects. We're on production networks, and we feel that they're going to roll that out even more in this federal fiscal year 22. My estimation is, based on talking with many people in the federal government, both in the civilian and military and intelligence areas, the Department of the Air Force is about 15 months ahead anywhere else out there right now. Doesn't mean that anybody else can't catch up, but they have taken a lot of initiative. And what we look forward to and hope that other agencies and commands will do is take the lessons learned, and then maybe they tweak it a little bit. Maybe they add or take away 1 or 2 vendors or something like that from the security stack, depending on that environment, but at least take those lessons learned and accelerate the adoption, because we all don't have time to wait, right? We have to take initiative, and we have to have a high degree and a sense of urgency. And, you can come back to me later, but there's a big amount of language in the recently signed National Defense Authorization Act, right? It was signed into law by the president on the 27th of December of last month. And there's a whole section on zero trust. And I believe there's a section in there on how the DoD needs to work with CISA, which is obviously the lead agency inside of the civilian area, but also one of the top 3 in the government in general, pushing cyber and zero trust.
A lot of clarity being issued out of the White House, which I think is a good thing, but a lot of work to do there, working at the speed of mission and at the speed of these bad actors. Ron, give us an example that you'd like to highlight. You pointed out the 365 activity, sort of covered the base on that one. What else do you have going on over at the U.S. Army Command that you'd like to highlight? And I know there, again, a lot of activity coming out of the White House as recent as just a few days ago in regards to more direction on the national security systems. No doubt you have a lot of those.
Yeah, I'd like to highlight, again, I already mentioned the scope and scale, just when you think about the amount of endpoints we have when you have 1.4 million users. And so really a key program that we have really rolled out and absolutely leveraged over the last 18 months is an endpoint security and management suite of tools we call the Army Enterprise Security Solutions. And this is a set of industry leading tools from many different vendors that we have working in a common ecosystem that really allows us to have the visibility to manage configuration, and manage an endpoint detection and response, what's going on with all of those endpoints. And when you think about the variety of, just breaches over the last year with SolarWinds and the Microsoft Exchange and a variety now Log4j, having that visibility on that endpoint security and management is absolutely critical. And being able to not just have the visibility, but be able to remediate and at speed is absolutely critical. The capability we have now, we're really managing the hardware and software, but the next generation, and again, it's a variety of the best industry leading tools, we're looking to go to really a managed service provider to really then go to the next level with the capabilities from industry. So this is the Army Enterprise Security Solutions Suite, I think is a really success story.
Now, is that fully rolled out at this point, fully realized?
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Large scale implementation. So congratulations to you on that. Dave, let's talk about what you're seeing over there at Verizon. Give us an example of a program that you'd like to highlight in regards to the cyber ecosystem here.
Yeah, actually to kind of tail off what Ron was saying with the big initiative the Army's doing, and looking at the proliferation of endpoints, right, with the remote operations, with people being out there, we're being asked a lot to, deal with mobile edge computing. What can we do on that edge? I mentioned a second ago about, the tactical edge, the operations center to the strategic operations headquarters. And so we've done some work actually on the civilian side of the federal government and also on the DoD side. Joint Base Pearl, we're working with them relative to putting out the mobile edge computing and working with that environment. The connected bases, Miramar, we're doing some work there as well. And it's specifically around how do we provide some of these base capabilities. Some of the civilian agencies are asking us to look at what we're doing in the commercial sector about connected cities. And it's really, I think what we're seeing is a lot of this, hey, we're looking to the future, how do we progress there? We're still doing all the critical infrastructure, but we also have to be leaning forward and how can we secure that piece of it? So we're doing a lot around the mobile edge computing. It seems like every week, whether it's an intelligence community entity or someone in DoD, Special Operations Command asking us, hey, we'd like to partner and look at the potential of what we're doing on the edge, whether it's the tactical edge or whether it's just, out doing any type of operations. We see a lot of it in first responding. How do we can still do operations? We just saw last year with the Hurricane Ida, we sent a large force out there to be able to secure and help folks. But in that, I mentioned all those examples to come back to this. It's really about securing and having a reliable network to be able to do what you need to do with not compromising security. How can we get people engaged? Because at the end of the day, we need to have everyone together, be sure we get that information necessary to make those command decisions. I think everyone would agree with that. And how do we get it in a timely manner and make sure that it is secure, but we can also still be forward leaning. And so I know there's a few different examples, but I just see that's kind of the state of what we're seeing, and a lot more, how can we look to the future and how can we implement that today? And it's at that speed of acceleration with not compromising security that's vital. And that's one of the things we do here is we start internally securing our network so we can get a lot of that lessons learned and apply that back out to the community. And I think that's what's been very valuable to us, especially over these last 2 years.
Right. The edge is key, making sure it's reliable and secure, very key. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network.